Hey fellow Force users and fellow superheroes, what is up? It's Sokatano fan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I so badly wanted to do a reaction video for this, and I saw a couple of you guys commenting asking if I was going to do a reaction video, but the problem is there's just too much footage for me to film and edit. You may not know this, but my camera actually times out like every 20 minutes. It takes forever to film, and then you have to do the editing. I really still wanted to talk about it though, because obviously there's a lot to talk about for those of you who have seen it, but you should have seen it by now. So I figured, why not do a little review discussion of some of the things that went down and also some of the major differences between the Snyder Cut movie and the Justice League movie from 2017. So without further ado guys, let's jump right in. So I just want to start by saying I love the Snyder Cut. Obviously, who didn't? I think that it was darker. I think it made more sense. I think it developed the story so much more. It really set the stage for future spin-off movies and potential TV shows. And it made me like the Justice League characters more than I did when I watched, the original Justice League back in 2017. Although I don't know if I should call it the original, but we'll just say the 2017 Justice League. Let's start with some of the major changes that I noticed. Number one, Steppenwolf just seemed different to me. I'm like, is he taller? Is he bigger? And then as I looked at the scales on his outfit, or whatever you want to call that, on his suit, I realized Steppenwolf was completely different in appearance, everything in this movie versus the 2017 movie. It was released in 2017, right? I gotta double check that, make sure I don't sound like an idiot. He wore completely different armor. He looked different in the face. Arguably, you could say that he looked more menacing in the Snyder Cut version, which I guess was kind of the point. The Snyder Cut was clearly going for a much darker feel. In the 2017 Justice League, he was the main villain, which I'm gonna get to in a second. Darkseid, oh my gosh. In the Snyder Cut version, he was kind of like an apprentice, if you know what I'm saying.
Remember, there can only be two, and you are no longer my apprentice.
He was definitely more of the apprentice, and Darkseid was clearly the master, and that obviously makes a huge difference to the overall story, which I'm going to get to in a second. But first of all, Wonder Woman cutting his head off like that. Oh my gosh. I didn't see that coming. At first they kind of made it seem like she might have just cut off a part of his like little antler or little horn. Obviously then you see his head drop and you realize, no, she cut off his head. That was such a shocking moment for me, because first of all, they clearly killed off Steppenwolf, whereas in the 2017 version, it was implied he might have got killed, but they kind of took him away and up through the beam again, so you don't know for sure if he died, whereas in this one, it left no doubt. And it also shows us another side of Wonder Woman too, because she's very often portrayed as being kind and seeing the best in humans and whatnot. This was the first time we kind of get to see the, the darker side to her and the more, the warrior side to her that is seen in some of the cartoons, right? And there was a while back where on Twitter, there was actually a picture posted of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and she was posing with severed heads from whatever set they were on, and it was controversial to a lot of people. But the Snyder Cut made me think of that photo because, at the time it's like, well, I've never seen Wonder Woman do that in the movies, but in this movie we see her do it, so it definitely shows us that warrior side to Diana. Nonetheless, they killed off Steppenwolf very clearly here, and they made it clear that he was only the apprentice to the master, who is Darkseid, which brings me to my next point. Darkseid, don't you think that would have been significant to leave in the final cut? Like, how could they not show Darkseid? In the 2017 Justice League, Steppenwolf does mention Darkseid.
Its power will cleanse this world for the unity. For Darkseid.
He mentions him by name, I believe it's only once, but they never showed him. So that part was definitely missing for me. When they showed the Amazons with the aquatic people and the Green Lantern, that whole scene just felt so much more impactful in the Snyder Cut versus the 2017 version, because you got to see Darkseid in action, and he is supposed to be, from my understanding, kind of like the DC's version of Thanos, or Thanos is Marvel's version of Darkseid, kind of. That whole ending where we see them kind of staring off at Darkseid, it just leaves us wanting more. It lets us know that there is going to be a battle to come. And it might not be in the next movie, it might not be for a couple movies, but that is going to be the final battle in essence, just as Thanos was the final battle for the Avengers, right? And by the way, Thanos or Darkseid, who would win? Let me know in the comments. Steppenwolf in the 2017 version, he wasn't that bad of a character, but he wasn't as menacing as he was in the Snyder Cut, and he certainly is not as menacing as Darkseid is, right? It just completely changes your perspective, because you look at Steppenwolf, you think he's the big bad guy, but then when you see who he's serving, you realize, oh, he's just a small part of a very big picture, right? And it kind of goes back to this arc from the Clone Wars, the Zygerian arc. I know I always have to make Clone Wars parallels here. One of the things that Anakin said to the Zygerian queen was that everybody has a master.
Make preparations for his arrival.
So even you have a master.
Dooku is not my master.
And so we really see that with Steppenwolf in the Snyder Cut, and with Darkseid being in the movie. Okay, so moving on to the rest of the movie now. Another big change I noticed was the fact that when you had those bug creatures in the 2017 movie, the first time we saw one of them, or I believe it was the first time, was when Batman was going after that burglar, and he held him off the side of the building, and he said that he needs his fear because those bat creatures sense fear. Sorry, they're actually called parademons. I should stop calling them bat creatures.
What do you want from me? Fear. I can smell it.
And that really never made sense to me. I just kind of went with it. The idea that the parademons just kind of were going around and sensing people's fears just did not really make sense. And I don't even know how they ended up finding the mother boxes in the 2017 Justice League. But in the Snyder Cut, they made it very clear from the beginning. They track the scent of the mother boxes. And that just made everything make so much more sense. Oh, that's why they took hostages, and that's how they knew that they had been near a mother box, because they literally smelt it on them, right? But I don't even think that was mentioned in the 2017 version. All I remember was just them talking about fear, and at the end they sensed Steppenwolf's fear, and that's what made them turn on Steppenwolf, which literally honestly makes no sense. No matter how much you try and make sense of it, it just doesn't make sense. The storyline, I think, overall made much more sense, and it felt, as I said, a lot darker. Even that whole scene with the Amazons and their sacrifice trying to protect the mother boxes, it was just so much more impactful in the Snyder Cut. In the 2017 version, they sealed the temple, but then Steppenwolf just smashes a hole in the wall and then escapes anyway. Whereas in the Snyder Cut, you see them literally sacrifice themselves and the whole temple collapses into the water. So you know all of them died. And one of them even tells the queen, Diana's mom, to honor us right before she goes, Diana's mom, and orders the temple sealed. And that scene actually kind of disturbed me, to be honest. Again, that just shows that Steppenwolf was a lot more menacing as a villain in the Snyder Cut. The fact that all those people died and he still found a way out, and the way that he was just kind of slaughtering them, it was even a little bit bloodier compared to the 2017 version, and it really made it look like they have a true fight on their hands. It becomes even more apparent that you need the Justice League to step in and band together to stop this guy, because look how powerful he is. And you didn't really feel that as much, I don't believe, in the 2017 version. So obviously we gotta talk about the final fight scene in a minute, but first I want to talk about the characters. I really like the characters so much more in the Snyder Cut. So starting with Cyborg, I'll be honest with you, I did not really like Cyborg in the 2017 version. I know that he went through a lot, but he just kind of seemed like he was always mad. And I kind of kept thinking, well, like, what is it about this character that I don't really like? I thought about it at the time, which was that they should have given him his own movie or something first so that I'd have a little bit of a backstory on him. And then obviously Zack Snyder, that's what he had plans. So he should have obviously kept this part in the movie, but they gave Cyborg an entire backstory, including showing what happened to his mom, who wasn't even shown in the 2017 version. And that just completely changed Cyborg as a character for me. He's now one of my favorites because I got to see what he went through and the situation he was in, and how his dad, did what he could to save him and did what was best for him, or at least in his father's eyes. And so you got to see him become Cyborg. You didn't just see him as Cyborg and that's it. You have the whole relationship between him and his father. His father obviously survived in the 2017 version, but he dies in this one. He makes the ultimate sacrifice. As sad as it is, it's such a fitting end to their relationship because you see Cyborg has been distant with his father since he became Cyborg, but then in that moment of sacrifice, he was the closest he's ever been with his father. And with that act of sacrifice and everything following that, Cyborg truly discovered who he was and what his purpose was. It took separating the mother boxes to do it as well, because he was confronted with his fears and his weaknesses, as Diana warned him he would be. And he overcame that and not only helped to separate the mother boxes, but he learned to live with the loss of both his parents now, and now truly knowing who he was and what his purpose was, which was, with the Justice League. So that was just such a good way to conclude, I guess, his relationship with his father. He just makes so much more sense in my eyes now. I get his story. The Flash also had great character development in the Snyder Cut version. I did like that scene that was added in to the 2017 Justice League with the Flash drawing on that guy's face. That was obviously really funny and just shows just how powerful he is and just how fast he is. But the Snyder Cut did give us that cool scene, which was slightly awkward, but mainly cool, between him and Iris when she crashes and he saves her from death. And the only reason why I say it was awkward is because her face looks so pretty and calm for someone that was crashing and about to die. But nonetheless, that scene showed just how fast the Flash can move. He literally tore his shoes, so that was just cool. It just showed his powers, and it showed how much humor he has as well, and why Ezra Miller is just perfect for this role. I love him as the Flash. During the ending scene, the Flash had a major role in the Snyder Cut, which was not even close to the same as what the 2017 version showed us. In the 2017 version, they had him pushing a car with a family in it to a safe distance, which was funny because we had the whole scene with him versus Superman. The Flash pushes the car, and then Superman pushes an entire apartment complex. So that was funny, and that humor was kind of carried on into the end when we see during the credits scene where the Flash and Superman are racing, which technically it shouldn't be close because the Flash should still be able to beat Superman. So that was nice and humorous, but at the same time, it really took away from the Flash's moment. I feel like they stole his moment by changing that part of the movie. In the Snyder Cut, the Flash literally saved all of them, and mankind. He ran quick enough to rewind time. He started at the beginning of the movie as, a teenager, trying to find his place in society. He's getting a new job and things like that, and he is visiting his dad in prison and kind of experimenting with his powers, to literally running fast enough to rewind time. And obviously we see that he was shot by one of the parademons first, so that created an obstacle, and so he had to overcome that obstacle, which made that moment even greater for his character. And so to just change that into having him simply push a car with a family in it is just such a downgrade. Aquaman as well, I really enjoyed him in the Snyder Cut. I did enjoy him in the 2017 version as well. There was a scene that was added on where he was unknowingly sitting on the lasso and was basically spilling the beans and telling the truth. And that included also kind of crushing on Wonder Woman. That was kind of funny. I think that was a good add in terms of the 2017 Justice League. That was a scene that was not in the Snyder Cut version. And then of course the way he walks away at the end there, it does seem to tie right into the Aquaman movie, which is what the Snyder Cut version did a really good job with, tying everything together really well. Yeah, so if we're talking more about that ending scene, that whole ending scene with Steppenwolf was much better done in the Snyder Cut version. You can tell the goal of the 2017 version was to make it a lot more lighthearted. But at the same time, it kind of did take away from the seriousness of what they were fighting for. They're fighting Steppenwolf and literally fighting to save humanity. It just kind of doesn't necessarily seem like the place or time to be too humorous. You kind of want to balance it, and I think the Snyder Cut had a good balance of that. Even down to the color scheme, if you look in the 2017 version of Justice League, the little, I don't know what you want to call it, you know, the hex, it's kind of like the hex from WandaVision, I guess. Steppenwolf, his little energy field that is created around him and his parademons, it was a more blue color in the 2017 version, whereas it was red in the Snyder Cut. And so when you see them infiltrate that shield in the 2017 version, their surroundings look a lot lighter, like a lighter red color, whereas in the Snyder Cut it looks like a darker blue color. So everything down to the color scheme was darker in the Snyder Cut version, and there were no families, which I think is honestly better. I preferred it without the families being there because it just kind of focused more on the Justice League and them trying to stop Steppenwolf. And then of course we see Superman show up and in the black suit, which was another thing that was different in the Snyder Cut. And it's also a nod to the comics. And I just think the black suit on him just looked so much better. It looked kind of meaner, darker, just more badass, you know, and it was just more fitting to Superman's story, I think, because obviously if he's coming back from the dead, he should be a different person. And what better way to symbolize that than giving him a different suit? So I really liked that he had black on. And I liked how he helped Cyborg, but I liked how their struggle to separate the mother boxes seemed like just that, a struggle. And it was too late at one point because Cyborg was taking forever to tell the Flash when he was ready. I don't know why he took so long, but it was actually too late and they were about to be wiped out if not for the Flash. So the Flash literally saved the day, and that just made the whole situation seem so much more dire. We feel a lot more relief when the heroes finally save the day. I liked the foreshadow of Superman and Darkseid's fight, like the whole moment where they were kind of staring off each other and Darkseid's on one end of the portal and Superman's on the other. The movie really kind of gives us that final fight between him and Superman to look forward to. Superman's role overall just made more sense because at the beginning we know that they showed the battle that occurred during Batman versus Superman, and we see Superman dying and he kind of is sending out these echoes, which essentially kind of more or less wakes up the mother boxes and alerts Steppenwolf, and that's what sends him on the hunt. It's kind of like Odin dying and then Hela sensing this and then coming out of her banishment and then back into the galaxy. And then if you think about what Lois said, something along the lines of darkness is not the absence of light, but it is the conviction that that light will never return.
Darkness, the truest darkness, is not the absence of light. It is the conviction that the light will never return.
Well, Superman really kind of is that light. The fact that a lot of people did not think he'd return is what left the world in such darkness, and then when he did, they were finally able to overcome that obstacle and stop Steppenwolf and save mankind. But then obviously if we look at the very end of the movie, there's some stuff going on there, including a potential alternate reality, alternate future, which I will get to in a sec. But I did want to say first really quickly that I like the fact we saw Lois grieving a little bit more in this movie, or not more necessarily, but I think it was better in the Snyder Cut to have her not going to work, and just the very thought of being in the office at all was too much for her to bear. That seemed a lot more realistic in her grieving process versus having her in the office but refraining from working on certain pieces or whatever it was she was saying to Superman's mom. That kind of allowed us to see how empty she feels without Superman. Her life was quite literally empty and silent, and dark. The color scheme around her is kind of dark when she's in her apartment. And then she's visited by Superman's mom, who ends up being the Martian Manhunter, which is another big character in addition to the Atom that was introduced in the Snyder Cut, thus setting the stage for spin-off TV shows and movies featuring them in the future. So that was awesome. I know with the Martian Manhunter, he is in Supergirl as well, so it was cool to see him in this movie. I'm just looking forward to seeing him in action and joining the Justice League in one of the upcoming movies. If we go to the end now, there's a lot that's implied. So through the portal, we can see Darkseid and his army. We see what looks to be a potentially alternate reality / future that might have been related to the whole Mother Box event when Flash rewound time, sort of thing. Or at least that's the impression that I got. And it looks like you have a few people that are dead, including Aquaman, including Lois. Bruce Wayne did say that Lois is the key, and he thought there was a darker meaning behind that.
Barry Allen was right here, and he said to me, Lois Lane is the key.
To Superman.
I think it's something darker.
So it sounds like Lois is dead. And during one of the visions in the movie where we see Wonder Woman dead and Darkseid ruling and the Queen crying, you see Superman holding a skeleton. And so I think we're led to believe that that's Lois, and that probably drives him crazy, and then he ends up working with Darkseid, which is very much like Star Wars, Padme dying and then Anakin turning to the dark side and joining Palpatine. And we see the Joker return, which is again another huge appearance in the Snyder Cut that we didn't get in the 2017 Justice League. They could definitely have a future movie where this is the reality and they have to try and fix it and go back in time somehow. We know that's happened in some of the cartoons as well, such as Flashpoint. Deathstroke, during his meeting with Lex Luthor, obviously has something against Batman, which is supposed to be due to the fact that he blames Batman for the death of his son. We see Lex Luthor give him Batman's true identity, and it looks like he's teaming up with Deathstroke to go after Batman, whereas in the 2017 version, he talks about forming their own league against Justice League, which is supposed to be the Legion of Doom.
His name is Bruce Wayne. We have to level the playing field, Mr. Wilson. Shouldn't we have a league of our own?
I heard that they are not planning on making this canon. I feel like, how could you not? There is just way too much that the Snyder Cut revealed for them to just ignore it and pretend like the 2017 version is what they're going to build off of. They just can't. The Snyder Cut definitely just, I think, renewed a lot of hope in fans who were let down by the 2017 Justice League. And so my hope is that they can build off of this, create spin-off movies and spin-off TV shows, and kind of do what Marvel is doing, and then kind of lead towards that big fight between Darkseid and Superman. So anyways, so much to cover, and I know I didn't even cover everything. There's so much in the Snyder Cut that we could talk for hours about, but you guys let me know what you thought of it, and whether you liked it more than the 2017 version, which I'm sure most of you did. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, guys. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, guys, I will see you in the next video. Take care.